Hiring a new producer for your insurance agency is extremely difficult. There's so many different things that you need to be able to know that this person understands and can do well, but how do you figure those things out? So my name's Tyler. I own a company called Scale Ops as well as a brand called Agency Aid. We have helped hundreds of insurance agencies around the country in order to scale and grow by hiring and staffing virtual assistants. But I'm also an agency owner myself. So I started a scratch agency and went through the same struggles that you're dealing with right now. I had to figure out, how do I interview producers? How do I ask the right questions? And after working with enough agents over the past few years, I've started to figure out some common themes and some ways to ask questions in order to get to the roots of, does this person understand what I need them to be able to do? And so in this video, I'm going to give you the top interview questions I recommend using and asking during an interview to be able to filter out producers and find the perfect candidate to start selling inside of your agency. So let's get into it. All right, so let's dive into the questions that you want to ask during an interview. So, our goal is to assess a few different things. Do they have the right experience? What's their character like? Is there a cultural fit? As in, will my team like them and get along with them? Will I like working with them? Will they take care of my clients? And is there anything I'm missing? What are they hiding under the rug that I've not seen? And so, we're going to try and figure out these questions, so there's some psychology behind what we're asking. So let me move this box out of the way. So before we get into asking the boring stuff, tell me about outside of work. What do you enjoy? And so this question, I usually like to ask it early on because I want them to let their stress level drop. So this person just walked into an interview. This job is how they feed their family, how they take care of themselves. This is going to be 8 hours of their day. So it's a massive piece of their life. And they're stressed out because there's a lot riding on this. So I want to get that stress level down. I want to get this person feeling comfortable and I want them speaking freely with me. By doing this, they're going to tell you more about what they're good at. They're going to have less jitters. It's going to be a better conversation. And keep in mind, this is a real human. So connect personally with them and make sure you like them. So, next question, tell me about your last position. What did you like? What didn't you like? What has you looking for a new position? So, they're probably going to tell on themselves a little bit here. So, they're going to tell you about all the stuff that has them looking for a new job, what they didn't like at the job. Generally, people are going to start with the negatives first, is what I've seen in interviews. And so they're going to tell you the pieces of the job that didn't go well and what they were looking to change. Now, if they're a producer and they say that they had to do cold calling at their last agency and they hated it, or the lead sucked, or whatever it is, this is going to tell you a few things. Because if you're wanting somebody to go beat the pavement and go produce business, you don't have leads coming in, you're going to know pretty quickly if that's not going to be a good fit. And they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, well, it's different. There was a cultural problem too, or I didn't get along with the owner. If they tell on themselves, make sure to remember that and do not let them talk themselves out of it. You also want to see, how do they talk about their last employer? I think this says a lot about a person, about their character, because however they talk about their past job that they worked at is probably how they're going to talk about your company whenever they leave. Because let's be honest, in today's day and age, people don't stay at companies very long. I mean, 3 years is going to be a great run for the average person. And so you need to keep that in mind because your name is extremely important. But try and find out, ideally, the stuff that they were really good at and they really enjoyed, because that'll tell you, does it align with what we're trying to do here at our company? Next, I like to ask a question. I do this in sales, but I also like to do it in interviews. So if you could wave a magic wand and create your perfect position, what would it look like? And so they're going to tell you all the stuff that they enjoy doing and that they're best at here. And so make sure that these things align with what you're needing for your next producer. If they say they love having conversations, meeting new people, creating relationships, that's probably going to be a pretty good one, because you need that for a producer. If you're going to have a successful producer, you don't want them transactional in your agency. You want them relational so that people stay for a long time. And also listen to what they don't say. Do they leave out any important things that somebody in this role should really like and should be doing? So this one's one that is very difficult to actually validate and make sure it's true, tell me about your average monthly production. How did you get leads and how did you close them? So ideally, you want somebody that's producing at least 30 or 40,000 in new business early on. That way you can validate them. That way you can cover the base that you're paying. You need to not be going in the hole drastically. And if you're hiring an existing experienced producer, hopefully they're going to come in and go ahead and give you a bump rather than just cutting into the bottom line. So if you can find somebody that is producing quite a bit of business, you can back into, okay, where do you get your leads from? And you can see if you can replicate this system. So if they've got tons of relationships with lenders and various other referral partners, that's something that's probably going to transition directly into your agency. Because when they call this person again, those leads are still going to be coming to your new producer, which now means they're coming to your agency. Now, if they are dialing out on internet leads, again, you can just buy the same leads. You should get the same results as long as you have comparable carriers. And there's a few factors there, but it should translate pretty well. Now, if they're just closing inbound referrals from their previous agency, that's going to be a problem because unless you have the same thing, you can't really replicate that. So keep that in mind. Try to figure out where their leads came from that they are closing. This is the one that you can use to filter out somebody's experience. If they told you they write 80,000 in new business every month and then they struggle on this question, you know that they're full of it. You need to kick them out. So I like to ask, let's say I'm a new client. I'm calling into the agency because I want to get car insurance. Now, I want state minimum limits. Keep in mind, our agency minimum here is 100, 300. I need you to sell me and educate me. And you want them to be able to explain what the coverage limits are. You want to make sure that they fully understand them and then can sell you on the benefits. You don't just want to hear features, you want to hear benefits. Ideally, you want to hear a story. You want somebody to walk you through a scenario in which those car insurance limits would apply to an accident and why you have to have at least 100, 300 or 200 or 250, 500, like whatever, not 25, 50, 25, whatever your state's minimum limits are. So you need them to be able to sell you, and you need to make sure that they're not just an order taker. You do not want to be selling state minimum limits because that's an E&O exposure. It's going to hurt your name and it hurts the client. Like, we are in this business to provide a service to people. Do not come in and do the minimum because you give a terrible name to the rest of the industry. If you're watching this video, that's not you. You're somebody that cares about your agency and you do extra work. So ask this question and make sure to filter out somebody that is not going to do what you want inside the agency. Now, another question that I like to ask, this one doesn't really have a right answer. I just wanted to see how they logically walk through processes. So I like to ask, let's say I'm out of the office and you have a few things you're working on. So a client just called in, you just answered, and they're looking for a certificate of insurance. But you're currently working on a quote for a really huge client and you just got an email from somebody that needs to file a claim. What do you work on first? And so typically, a producer shouldn't be the one that's handling these service tasks. But if you're a small agency, then maybe. So I like to find out, okay, how do they prioritize things? Generally, if they're on the phone with a client, you need to handle whatever is in your hand first. So finish that. Finish getting them that certificate of insurance, make sure it's what they need, etc. Maybe they transfer it to whoever the service department is. That would probably be the ideal situation. Filing a claim, again, if you're a small agency, maybe they're filing this claim themselves. That's something that takes no time. You can either hop on hold and be working on the quote in the background, or you can just go into the online portal, file a claim. It takes 2 minutes. Pretty simple. And then you need to be working on the new quote for the new huge client, whatever it is. I guess it's commercial. But I like to ask this question just to see, how do they prioritize? And also, producers should be good at talking. They should be able to explain processes and talk you through things. And you want to see, how do they think on their feet? So I like this one just to be able to see how well do they rationalize. Next, walk me through your typical sales process. Talk me through getting the lead, meeting the client, closing, quoting, etc., all of it. And so, again, if they lied about their production, it's probably going to come up here because you want to see structure. So, how do they generate the lead? How do they do their sales process? Like, talk me through your process of chatting with the client. What does that look like? Well, generally, it's going to be building rapport and then asking questions, finding out what they need. And then you start working on the quote, present it, close it. And you want to hear somebody say that they follow up because that is a massive piece of this process. And generally, people aren't going to say that. But if you keep asking a few probing questions about after you present it, what does that look like? What do you do? You'll be able to hear, all right, I keep following up with this prospect for a week. And that's going to be a really good sign because that's a key piece of being a successful producer. Then I like to ask, sell me on you. Why should we hire you over some of the other candidates that we've got? And so this is a sales role. You need to be able to see how well they sell themselves. They should tell you the benefits of hiring them and potentially ask about their weaknesses here. That's a question I don't usually like to ask just because I feel like I don't get a lot of positives from it. I've heard in a lot of interviews, hey, tell me about your biggest weakness. And people are generally going to try and spin it in a positive. Oh, well, I work too hard and I care too much about my work. You're free to ask that. I just don't feel like I ever get anything super useful from it. But I do like to ask, sell me on you. What's the best part about you? And generally, they're going to say work ethic. They're going to say they go above and beyond. If somebody says that they like to self educate, I think that's a positive. If they read a lot, that's generally a really good indicator of a successful producer. So these are a few questions that I like to ask in an interview. Hopefully this helps you. Hopefully it helps you filter out some people that may not be what you're looking for in the agency. If you have any questions, if you need any help, leave a comment down below or go to our website, scalemyops.com. Reach out to my team. We would love the chance to get to help you grow your agency. See you in the next one.